The 12 major Japanese gods and goddesses. Japanese gods and goddesses are deities mostly based on the kami. The mythical spirits and supernatural beings of the land. In terms of history, the first of these mythologies were documented in written forms by the early 8th century. The Shinto-Japanese myth also consists of the primordial gods, called Izanagi, Izanagi no Mikado, or he who invites, and Izanami, Izanami no Mikado, or she who invites. The duo of brother and sister are perceived as the divine beings who brought order to the sea of the chaos below heaven by creating the first landmass, in the form of the island of Onigoro. Interestingly enough, most narratives concur that they were directed to do so by an even earlier generation of kami, divine beings, who resided in the plane of heaven. Even more intriguing is the way the duo created the landmass by standing on the bridge or stairway to heaven, Ame-no-Uzume, and stirring the chaotic ocean below with their jewel-encrusted spear, thereby giving rise to the island of Onigoro. However, in spite of their apparent ingenuity, things soon fell out of favor, with their first union creating a deformed offspring, the god Hiruko, or Ebisu. Izanagi and Izanami went on to create more landmasses and give birth to other divine entities, thereby giving form to the principal 8 islands of Japan and over 800 kami. Unfortunately, in the arduous process of creation, Izanami died from the burning pain of giving birth to Kagetsuchi, the Japanese fire god, and is consequently sent to the underworld, Yomi. The grief-stricken Izanagi followed his sister Izanami to the underworld, and he even succeeded in convincing the older generation of gods to allow her to return to the realm of the living. A cleansing ritual followed whereby Izanagi inadvertently created even more Japanese gods and goddesses. The Mihashira no Uzunamiko, like Amaterasu, the sun goddess birthed from the washing of his left eye. Tsukiyomi, the moon god birthed from the washing of his right eye. And Susanoo, the storm god birthed from his nose. To that end, in Shinto culture, cleansing, harai, is an important part of the ritual before entering the sacred shrines. Yabisu, the Japanese god of luck and fishermen, the very first child of the primordial duo Izanagi and Izanami, was born in a deformed state, which according to the mythical narrative was due to a transgression in their marriage ritual. He is the deity of fishermen and luck. After being born without bones, was said to have been set adrift in the ocean at age 3. In spite of this immoral trial, the child by luck, somehow managed to come ashore to one Ebisu Saburo. The child then grew through various hardships to call himself Ebisu or Yabisu, thereby becoming the patron god of fishermen, children, and most importantly wealth and fortune. Pertaining to the latter attribute, Yabisu is often considered as one of the primary deities of the 7 gods of fortune, Shichifukugen. He maintains his jovial mood, often called the laughing god, and wears a tall pointed cap folded in the middle, called Kazauri Boshi. In an interesting note, Yabisu is also the god of jellyfishes, given his initial boneless form. Kagetsuchi, the Japanese god of destructive fire, or homisabi, he who starts fire, was another offspring of the primordial Izanagi and Izanami. In a tragic twist of fate, his fiery essence burned his own mother Izanami, which led to her death and departure to the underworld. In a fit of rage and revenge, his father Izanagi proceeded to lop off Kagetsuchi's head, and the spilled blood led to the creation of even more kami, including martial thunder gods, mountain gods, and even a dragon god. Kagetsuchi was regarded as the forebearer of various distant potent and powerful deities, who even brought forth the creation of iron and weapons in Japan. Amaterasu, or Amaterasu Omikami, the glorious kami who illuminates from heaven, also known by her honorific title, Ohirumi no Muchi no Kami, the great son of the kami, is venerated as the goddess of the sun and the ruler of the realm of the kami, the high celestial plane, or Takama no Hara. In many ways as queen of the kami, she espouses the grandeur, order, and purity of the rising sun, while also being the mythical ancestor of the Japanese imperial family. Her epithet suggests her role as the leader of the gods, with the rulership directly granted by her father Izanagi, the creator of many Japanese gods and goddesses. Tsukiyomi, the Japanese god of the moon. In contrast to many Western mythologies, the moon deity in Japanese Shinto is a male. Tsukiyomi, Tsuku meaning moon month, and Yomi referring to reading. He is one being born from washing of Izanagi's right eye. He married his sister Amaterasu, the goddess of the sun, thereby allowing for the union of both the sun and the moon in the same sky. However, the relationship was soon shattered when Tsukiyomi killed Yukimochi, the goddess of the food. The heinous act was apparently carried out of disgust when the moon god was witness to Yukimochi's spitting out of various food items. In response, Amaterasu broke off with Tsukiyomi by moving to another part of the sky, thus making day and night completely separate. Susanoo, the Japanese god of season storms, born from the nose of Izanagi, the father of Japanese gods. He is a brother to both Amaterasu and Tsukiyomi. He was perceived as a temperamental, disheveled kami who is prone to chaotic mood swings, thus alluding to his power over the ever-changing storms. Mythically, the mercurial nature of his benevolence and malevolence also extends to the seas and winds near the coast, where many of his shrines are located in South Japan. Susanoo is often celebrated in the Shinto folklore as the guileful champion who defeated the evil dragon by cutting off all its 10 heads after imbibing them with alcohol. After the encounter, he recovered the famed sword Kusanagi no Tsurugi, and also won the hand of the woman who he saved from the dragon. Raijin and Fujin, the Japanese gods of weather. Talking of storms and duality of character, Raijin and Fujin are considered the powerful kami of the elements of nature who can be favoring or disagreeable to the plights of mortals. To the left, Raijin is the deity of thunder and lightning who unleashes his tempests with wielding of his hammer and beating of drums. Interestingly enough, Raijin is depicted with 3 fingers, each representing the past, present, and future. Fujin, on the other hand, is the fearsome monstrous kami of the winds, who carries his fair share of gales and gusts in a bag on his shoulders. According to few myths, it was Fujin who saved Japan during the Mongol invasions by unleashing a typhoon on the approaching fleet, which was later called the Kamikaze, divine wind. Ame-no-Uzume, the Japanese goddess of dawn and dancing, the jovial female deity of the dawn and the patron goddess of creativity and performing arts including dancing. One of the central myths in Shinto pertains to how Amaterasu, the sun goddess, locked herself in a dark cave after falling out with Susanoo, the storm god. This resulted in the arrival of darkness over the heavens and the earth. So in a bid to distract the other anxious kami, Ame-no-Uzume covered herself in leaves of sakaki tree. She then started making cheery cries and it followed up by gleeful dancing atop a platform. She even resorted to removing her clothes, which led to amusement among the other gods who started roaring in joy and laughter. The ensuing merriment stirred the curiosity of Amaterasu, who finally came out of her cave, and thus the world was once again covered in radiant sunlight. Hachiman, also called Yahata no Kami, epitomizes the syncretism between Shinto and Buddhism in early medieval Japan. Revered as the god of war, archery, culture, and even divination, this deity evolved and grew in importance with the establishment of various Buddhist shrines in the country after circa 9th century AD. Hachiman is also venerated as a bodhisattva, or Japanese Buddhist deity, who acts as the steadfast guardian to numerous shrines in Japan. As for his intrinsic association with war and culture, Hachiman was said to have his avatars carry forth the legacy and influence of the burgeoning Japanese society. As for one of the popular myths, it was Hachiman who saved Japan during the Mongol invasions by unleashing a typhoon on the approaching fleet, which was later called the Kamikaze, divine wind. Inari, the Japanese deity of agriculture, rice, commerce and swords, considered as one of the most revered kami in the Shinto pantheon. Inari often depicted in dual gender, sometimes male and sometimes female. Inari is the god of rice, or rice field, thereby alluding the association with prosperity, agriculture and abundance of produce. Inari was also revered as the patron deity of merchants, tradesmen, entertainers, and even swordsmiths. Interestingly enough, mirroring the deity's vague gender, who was often depicted as an old man while in other instances was depicted as a woman with the head of a fox or accompanied by foxes. Canon canon serves as one of the most important Buddhist deities of Japan. Venerated as the god of mercy, compassion and even pets. The deity is revered as a bodhisattva. As opposed to direct transmission from China. The figure of canon is probably derived from Avalokitesvara, an Indian deity, whose name in Sanskrit translates to the Lord who regards all. Jizo, another bodhisattva among the Japanese gods. Jizo is venerated as the protector of the children, the weak, and the travelers. Jizo had the profound duty of alleviating the suffering of the lost souls in hell, and guiding them back to the western paradise of Amida, a plane where souls are freed from karmic rebirth.